By special judgment of Oratrice Mécanique d'Elise Cardinal, and by the sheer will of Oratrice Mécanique d'Elise Cardinal, we are here today to do the 347th episode of the Fake Nerd Podcast, as blessed by Oratrice Mécanique d'Elise Cardinal. And yeah, that freaking dumb trammed on TikTok has been stuck in my brain because they used the riff from whatchamacallit. The riff from Another One Bites the Dust, and it will not leave my goddamn brain.
Yeah, what is that from? That Mechanism?
Apparently it's from Genshin Impact. I just googled to the name just to make sure I was saying it correctly, and it's like three results down. It says, "Oh, it's from Genshin. It's a character from Genshin Impact." Because I could have swore it sounds like Matthew Mercer talking about someone in one of the Critical Role campaigns that I have yet to get to.
Look, you can't discount.
That's the trend. You got to be dancing.
Yeah,
I mean, look, it could be Matt Mercer. Like, you never know. He does do video games.
He does. He most certainly does. But hello, my friends. How are you? This beautiful, somewhat is it cloudy? I can't.
Who are we?
Oh, that's Brandon T. McClure over there.
Hello.
And of course, we have Sparks Witty.
I'm also here by order of the Oratrice Mécanique d'Elise Cardinal.
Yeah, you understood the assignment. And of course, Mr. Cannot Believe I'm Actually Up and Awake at this hour, Ryan Eliopoulos.
You know what, man? I'm proud of you. Makes me feel good. You're up before 10. That's you're growing. I love it.
He's up before 10. He's referencing the memes here.
It's like we're 25 again.
It's like we're doing.
Many of us have just turned 33, and one of us. All right. Hi, guys. We're back for another episode of the Fake Nerd Podcast. A little early this morning. Well, actually, right on time this morning. But it feels earlier than normal because I stayed up way too late last night.
For once, I did it, and I just got a brand new video game. And when my fiance went to bed, she literally said, "You can play this video game for one more hour. I'm trusting you to go to bed in an hour after I leave." And I actually did what she said. And I'm proud of myself.
After we recorded, I went to watch the newest episode of Doctor Who. I couldn't wait anymore.
I went and opened up a bunch of Pokemon packs, and I played started Final Fantasy 16, and I'm so happy.
Yeah, fate is written in fire.
But we have quite a bit in the description below. A note for the live people: I was called into work on Saturday, which is normally when I build the episode descriptions. So I was not able to do that. So for you live people, anyone watching the live stream, you will not have these in the description. They will be there for the rewind and for the audio description as well. So I'll just tell you what they are. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, our Cinephiles, is up now. That was a lot of fun to record. The latest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that we all really enjoyed is there now. You can check out our thoughts. Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 9 and 10 are up now. And 10, insane gap between 9 and 10 as far as like viewership numbers go, because I don't mind telling our listeners they should know that we have a small audience because they're part of it. But our episode 9 is currently at 32 views, and our episode 10 is currently at 269.
And then the one before that is doing also, better than that. So it's like, isn't 8 the political one that was kind of bad?
Under the Cloak of War.
Yeah, and then 10's the finale. So it's like, when people want to listen to Star Trek, like, they'll find anybody. So like, that's great to know.
Yeah, so the musical episode dud, the political episode up. Okay, cool.
I want to hear about negativity.
My views on the season have unfortunately only soured as I've only thought of it. I was not as hot on the season as I wanted to be, and over time, it's kind of my thinking on it has gotten a little worse. But I was happy to do it with you guys. I'm glad the episodes are finally out, so you guys can see all my thoughts on those episodes. So check them out now. Lots of archive stuff. Strange Town, Luther Strode, The Woods, Survivors Club. Oh, I remember Survivors Club. That was pretty good.
Yep.
Headlopper, Spider-Gwen. So a lot of like the archive book club stuff is up now. Haunted Mansion. Ben, Sparks, and I did a Haunted Mansion review, which is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that movie.
did?
A lot more than I thought I did. I thought I would too. So that was a fun discussion to get into.
Yeah.
Ahsoka season 1 has started. Episodes 1 through 3 were our first episode, so that's there. You can check out our thoughts on the first, not half, like quarter of the show.
I'd say
Yeah.
like third,
Almost quarter. Yeah.
almost quarter, so maybe third.
Yeah.
I know I can't do
That's
math.
there. So that you can check that out as well. And then Invincible has begun. Our Invincible discussions for season 2 have begun. We've recently recorded the beginning of season 2, but our Adam Eve special, that's just myself and Sparks. An episode I was very hot on the first time I watched it, and I'm really glad the second time because not quite as good. Which is, as I get into it, exactly what Amazon was banking on. To release something to be like, look, new Invincible, it's out now. You can watch it now. Go watch it now. And everyone will be like, oh my God, do Invincible. And then you think about it and you're like, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Could have just been an episode of the show, maybe.
If it was an episode of the show, I think that would have been a bad episode of the show. But if you, I think, splice it in to the season, like bits of like flashbacks of Adam Eve's story, I think it could have been interesting to see. As a full special, it kind of is lackluster.
We have a good discussion where I think we really get into like, do you need this? Like, do we need this? And will this matter to the character in the show, or would it change anything if you didn't see this special? And that's kind of what we talk through.
And so far, no.
No.
And then finally, just yesterday, Doctor Who, Sparks and I, and with our friend Xander, have decided to do a Herculean task of discussing in 3 episodes the previous Doctor Who eras of New Who. So it's this first one is Eccleston and the first 3 seasons of Tennant, his only seasons because he ends with the specials. So that's what up now. You can listen to us talk about the Eccleston season and then 3 Tennant seasons, going through like Martha and Rose and Donna. It was a lot of fun to do. Really happy to revisit those. Season 4, I mean, we all were just kind of looking at the episode list of season 4. We're like, wow, every episode's great.
Oops, all bangers.
I started watching season 4 after the discussion because I was like, oh, that's just a good season. Like, that's just maybe the best season of the show, because I don't think there's an even kind of like, episode in it. It's all great,
all bangers.
I was watching. I decided to go through because our next episode will be the Tennant specials and then all of Matt Smith. So stay tuned for that. I started watching the Tennant specials, which I can't wait to get into the Planet of the Dead episode because I loved that episode. I was like so into that episode. But I was watching the Matt Smith season and I was going through it and I was like, oh, this season was kind of a wash for me. And then I was like, oh, but wait, Vincent and the Doctor is in the season. I like that episode a lot, so I decided to rewatch that one. And yeah, great episode. Can't wait to talk about it. That is all of the description stuff. That's all there in the description. You can check out where you can find it, obviously, both audio and video formats. The links will be there. Yeah,
I have something to add in the description, actually.
In the description. Oh, D and Dark. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
I'm
Do not be sorry.
When it's not a list in front of me.
Yeah. It's
so hard for me to remember.
Dude. I just wanted to remind everyone listening that a brand new episode of D and Dark did come out. This episode is more of a role play episode than an action episode, but the ball starts rolling and some really bad shit starts happening, and I don't want to say it because it involves Grayson's character, Jack, the Invisible Man. And it is definitely one of those things where it's like, oh, we have to do Phantom's thing, but we're also on a bit of a time crunch. And things are just going from bad to worse. Almost all the episodes of D&D Dark because things go from bad to worse.
I really like, Eric, right? Phantom of the Opera, Eric.
Yes. The person who plays him is Aaron.
Mm-hmm. I really like him just in general. I think he's really fun as the Phantom of the Opera, but this episode specifically, he was on top form. I felt, especially when he was like describing his eyes at the musical notes. It was fun. Yeah, it was a good episode. I'm looking forward to more as always, Ben.
The more I play with Aaron as Fan of the Opera when we play Dean Dark together, the more I just like I've obviously met Aaron in real life before we've hung out. I saw him last weekend, and it's just like the more we play, the more we role play, and it's just like, dude, you were like born to play this guy. Like it is so easy for me because as you all know, Dungeons and Dragons is very much theater of the mind. Sometimes, when we play online, we have like a map in front of us so we can know where our characters are at. But just the way he describes his stuff is just so vivid and it's so cool. And sometimes, it's also so creepy that you just can't help but go, and also go, ha ha, oh man, that's not going to be good later on, is it?
Okay. Anything else? Anything you guys want to add about any of the description links before we move on?
Check them out.
We're dropping a bunch of stuff because of strike. That's still going to be going on probably for the next 2 weeks, and then you'll be all caught up. In theory.
If I could just reiterate, definitely watch the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles review. If I remember correctly, I had a really fun time recording that, and also it's a really good movie. I saw it with Ryan when it first came out, and it was a very enjoyable theater experience. And like just when he and I left the movie theater that day, both of us had smiles on our faces, and I was like, man, that was so good. And we just kept laughing about how when Splinter says, "See, I told you, you got milked."
That's pretty good. That's a really good joke.
One could argue maybe the best TMNT thing ever made, but that's not for me to say.
I will say, like, on average, I'm really happy that all our strike content is being viewed just about as much as they usually are anyway. So I'm really glad that it is still getting the attention that we generally do, and it's not just all zeros and like nobody's going back and checking out this stuff. I'm really glad that, like, because we had these great conversations that we knew we weren't releasing at the time. So I'm glad that they're actually getting attention.
Yeah. It's for us, it's nice that nothing bombed, which is great. Okay.
Someone, a streamer once told me, hey, if you're ever feeling bad about low numbers, think about your viewer count if they were like watching a movie with you. So even if it's like 30 people, imagine 30 people in the room with you watching something. And that's a lot of people. So like anything that gets more than one view, I'm like, hey, thanks for checking it out, man.
Right.
Oh yeah, it is what it is when it comes to
that ship
us.
sailed a long time ago. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into our discussion then. I'm not going to play the intro. I will, however, just bring up Babs on the side there because for the purposes of this current thing, it doesn't really make sense to structure it. So, where do we want to start? I have my opinion, but I want to know where you guys feel like we should start.
I have no news to bring, so where do you guys want to start?
Yeah,
I would like to start with, if I may, I would like to start with Nicholas Hoult being cast as Lex Luthor in Superman Legacy.
The Superman Legacy casting. Let's get into it.
So, as far as I know, it's only Nicholas Hoult has been announced to be cast. No one else has been announced.
There's a few people.
There's a lot of people.
Okay, cool.
A few people. I'm bringing it up right now because I do have a name. So obviously, Nicholas Hoult is cast as Lex Luthor. Then there is Sarah Sampaio, cast as Eve Tessmacher. And then Skylar Gisondo has been cast as Jimmy Olsen. And there's also this was the week prior, so I had to look this one up. Maria Gabriela de Faria has been cast as the Authority character, the Engineer.
Hell yeah.
So that's the kind of the four big casting that happened post strike.
Let's talk about like these are all great castings, but like in terms of the characters that we'll talk about, like the smallest, which is the Engineer from the Authority. So this movie really feels like it's going to be like Superman coming into a world where like the boys already exist and him like brightening up the world, because the Authority, it's in their name. They're superheroes who don't listen to anybody and will do anything to get the job done. Not so much in like a murdery way like the boys, but like they don't answer to any government. It's very much like the Captain America Civil War argument. Like no one should have authority on us because we're here to do the right thing. We also have nuclear bombs in our fists. So that dynamic is going to be really, really fun. And then we have obviously all the other Justice League people who've been announced, like, Hawkgirl and stuff like that. So like, this has been a really, really interesting cast for your first Superman movie. I know people online have been like, is Superman even in this movie? I'm like, guys, shut up. Yes, obviously Superman movie and Superman movie.
I'm there. Honestly, it's too much. I think
I've
there's
seen
too
James Gunn
many
movies.
other heroes.
That guy handles big crowds of people better than anyone on the planet. Every single movie has an ensemble cast. Like, I'm personally not worried.
Brandon, I kind of lost some of your thought there. Can you say more of what you were saying?
I think it's too much. I think it's cool to do. I think it's cool to do a Superman movie like this. For your first Superman movie, he's already said it's not an origin story. That's cool. This world of Superman already exists. We saw Blue Beetle. If that does take place in this world, then he does exist in this world already. I just feel personally, I have never gotten a Superman movie since the 70s, right? And I've always gotten like kind of Superman movies, mostly a good casting, but bad movies in general. And so like I'm here, like I'm really excited for a James Gunn Superman movie. I trust James Gunn implicitly. I love all of his movies. I'm happy with whatever he does. We have gotten to the point now where I'm like, I understand. I don't know what this movie is clearly, because I'm not writing the movie, but it's still for me. I'm like, I just wanted a Superman movie. I just wanted a movie starring Superman with his supporting cast, fighting Lex Luthor, maybe fighting Brainiac. Even that's the movie I wanted, and what I'm getting could still be good. I'm not against this at all. It's just kind of tweaking me, going like, I just wanted a Superman movie.
No, I'm actually more.
You're not. Sorry, Ben. Can I ask Brandon a question?
Yeah, go for
it. You don't like Superman Returns, right?
Superman Returns is fine. I like Brandon Routh a lot. I don't really like Superman Returns though.
Sure. Okay. Ben, say what you were gonna say, and then I'll say what I was gonna say.
No, I was gonna say I'm also kind of in Brandon's camp. Whereas I do like, because I was like going through it as well. I am happy to see the other Justice League characters in here, but also I feel the same way Brandon does. Whereas I'm not mad they're going to be there. I'm not upset about it. I'm just a little, I don't want to say concerned, but I kind of am, because I also want this to be a sole Superman movie, because we haven't gotten a sole Superman movie since Man of Steel, really. And I want a Superman movie before we bring Superman into all the other big stuff and all the other team up movies. Not to say that I feel like I'm ranting, or I'm cycling around. Yeah, going in circles, because as much as I want this, as much as I trust James Gunn, and I'm just looking back on his other films, like his biggest ensemble film, I want to say being the Suicide Squad, because James Gunn can handle, like Brian said, James Gunn can handle crowds very well. He can handle ensembles very well, and you get a really great story with a great ensemble cast. And I'm looking forward to it. It's weird to say I have my trust completely in James Gunn's writing and directing this movie, but also I want a sole Superman movie.
Yeah,
but I'm also really glad we're not getting an origin story again. That's one thing I'm actually very happy about.
That's exactly it, because like obviously I do trust James Gunn. I'm sure this movie will be great. But on the other hand, I also wanted just this plain Superman movie. So like it's kind of a weird place to be in, of like, yeah, I trust the movie I'm going to get, but also I would have rather had this, but like I can't know that because the thing isn't out yet. So it's a weird kind of headspace to be in.
Go ahead, Ben.
Sorry, just one more really dumb thing that I wanted to mention. When they announced like the supposed date when this movie comes out, which is 2025. The way they announced it in like the old style comic book logo, like cool. With I love that, and I don't know why, but seeing the logo like that gave me a sense of we're going back to. I don't want to say we're going back to. Obviously, we can't go back to a Christopher Reeve Superman. We can never do that. But we're going back. I feel we're going back to a Superman who is much more optimistic than don't get me wrong. I loved Henry Cavill's Superman. I think he played a great Superman, but we're going to the more smiling Superman, where Superman is like, he comes down and is like, hey, I'm here to help. What do you need me to do? And it's not like the dark, gritty one.
My take on this, I think, is I think there's a lot of factors at play for this. I'll respond to what Ben was just saying very specifically with the optimism. I think the point and purpose of a lot of this is we are going to get that Superman, but he has to be in contrast. I think James Gunn's probably trying to tell a story that's very much like, there's the kind of throwaway, it's not really a throwaway, but kind of throwaway line about what it means for Captain America to put on the costume he's going to put on in the Avengers when he's talking with Coulson. We need a bit of that old fashioned right now. And that's a nice line. It's not really relevant actually in the story of Avengers, nor is it really relevant in the MCU that's what he represents. Like there's no actual subject matter that tackles that concept. But I think that's what this movie is. As Ryan was alluding to with the authority and position and these other characters, it's the purpose is how does Superman enter the scene and change everything? And by being who he is. And I do think that's the relevance of it. So you have all these other pieces set up around because Superman has to be entering in contrast and in that element of change to what the pre-existing order has been. I hear you guys. I also would enjoy like a solid, like just Superman focused movie. And I do think like, this isn't his fault necessarily, but like the purpose of this is to build a more cohesive, connected universe, something that DC hasn't pulled off and really didn't set out to do the last time. And I think that a lot of this casting stuff, we don't know all of these characters, how much they're going to be in the movie, how much we're going to see them, that kind of thing. They're being cast because they're also appearing in other things that are currently also in pre-production. So like these are the people who are being cast because they're going to show up in these other projects as well. So it can seem crowded. I really don't think so many of these are going to overstuff the film as much as the casting makes us think.
Yeah.
It's just making sure that the world feels like it's full of the people you're going to see show up in other places as well, right off the bat. But I think Gunn's focus is on, because I'm giving you this world of fully fleshed out, these are strong performers, these characters have a standing. These are actors who are going to be able to show up in only a single scene, but give you a lot of character so you understand what the template is that Superman's walking into. But it is still going to be about Superman and Superman changing the landscape of what it is. And I also, real quick before you jump in, Brandon, I do think that it's also a response to the general audience response to Superman, which is unfortunately not where we are. Not where the three of us are expressing. A lot of people don't want a solo Superman story right now. And I think it's because they've been bogged down by what Zack Snyder did. There's a whole generation of kids that grew up with that Superman. They're not interested in that Superman movie. So that's not a drawing appeal. And I think this is a very smart step for Gunn in terms of building a universe
100%.
To give you a different taste of Superman, something that is more full of other stuff. So it's not riding on the back of Superman, putting that weight of expectation on all those people who are put off of it, so that the next time we get Superman, that will be a Superman. Like this is I suspect a Superman and Supergirl movie. I think we're going to get the Supergirl story that they're doing. The next thing that's going to happen is the two of them being together for something. Go ahead, Brett.
Well, I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you at all. And again, as I've mentioned before, I trust James Gunn. I love all of his movies. I'm very happy that he's doing a Superman movie. My question to you though is this idea that Superman is walking into a cynical world and changing it. Didn't we do this twice already with Superman Returns and Man of Steel? Admittedly, both not done well, but that is kind of the general conceit of both those films, that the world that he is entering is a much more cynical world than he is going to leave it. And I think Man of Steel does it worse than Superman Returns, but even Superman Returns doesn't do it quite as well because it's not that great of a movie. Honestly, a little boring. And so like I just question, like, we're doing that again, and admittedly we could do it the right time this way, but like, do we really want to see them do that kind of, okay, this world is cynical, here comes Superman, how is this better, rather than just us living in a world where Superman has already impacted that world?
Well, in context to like the Zack Snyder stuff, the answer there was the world is cynical, so Superman's going to be a little cynical too. Right. So that's not the story that they were telling there. But I know
that's what he wanted to say.
I know what you're getting at. I think the difference is we're being given superheroes, people who are in his position, not behaving the way he behaves. So in that that is the difference, is that he's the breath of fresh air because there are already these other superheroes in the world who aren't like him, and he's going to step in and rise to the top because everyone's going to be like, oh, you know what, we actually should have been more like him.
Sure.
I like the way he does it better. And I do think that's different because, again, like what you're saying, Brandon, I think is true about like the grander idea of what those previous movies were supposed to be. But it, again, kind of the same as what I was saying about the Captain America thing. The movie's not really about telling that story, nor is any story in those universes ever been about telling the story of like, what does it mean to say like having this nice, more
Farm
optimistic guy in the center of all this actually mean it's not the weight of the movie. I actually think that might be the weight of this movie.
Right. The other thing is that I'm sorry to question the wisdom of James Gunn here. But like the thing is like, and I don't mean that sarcastically, like genuinely. But like if he is introducing all these characters to shoot off into other movies and shows, like we know that there's all these things. I don't understand why Guy Gardner is in this movie if Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart are the stars of that Green Lantern show.
Sure.
So like that's the question in my head of like, well, if we are introducing all these people, why aren't you introducing Hal Jordan to spin off into that thing? If you're introducing these guys to a spin off, why is this Guy Gardner?
He's the jerkiest of the Green Lanterns.
Well, and I think that I think that like there is something a little. Obviously I don't know.
I don't either.
He's got his own story reasons for doing it, but I do kind of like that we're not being given like the A-lister title characters. Who are going to show up in other places. You know, that they are going to appear in other projects, but they're not the headliner. Because I think that pulls focus, and I also think like DC in particular has run that idea into the ground. I mean, Wonder Woman cameoed in 3 movies in the past 2 years.
Yep.
And like it acted like that was a big deal, and it's like it like lost its resonance every time. So like story wise, I can't tell you. I have no clue. Like why is a Guy Gardner here? But I think in like a building the universe purpose, I think Guy Gardner introduces the concept of Green Lanterns, but you're being given him as a backdoor to different headlining stars rather than feeling like you have to set up Hal Jordan here, and here's the things he says, and at the end, this is why Hal Jordan goes to XYZ show. You don't have to do that kind of storytelling that we've done in cinematic universes up to this point. I think it leaves the threads more spread out and cleaner rather than trying to be so tight to each other. Mm-hmm. I think it leaves the universe more flexibility to not be the headlining characters, because if they're in production on the other show and the Superman movie's far enough along and they realize they really got to change something up with Hal Jordan, they can just do it. It doesn't matter in how it relates to the Superman movie. The Superman movie has Guy Gardner, so they don't have to worry about, oh shit, is this still character consistent? Blah, blah, blah. And it leaves them room to like figure out what's working in that project or what's not working without worrying about the project before.
Right. Well, let's talk about those individual castings in general then.
Sure.
Is Nicholas Hoult, I think, is a great choice for Lex.
Oh yeah.
He can't be Batman, can't be Superman. He can be a Lex. We'll give him Lex.
We'll give him Lex Luthor. I don't know. Could someone correct me if I'm wrong? But what movie is Nicholas Hoult a villain in?
The Menu, The Gift. Not like maybe Renfield, kind of.
I mean,
no.
I don't know.
No, I mean he was a villain in his past, but
he's disgusting in The Gift and The Menu.
He doesn't even like being the villain in Renfield. I wouldn't throw that one in.
I'm just
okay,
but the Menu, I think is.
But like, I also like actors, so like I don't need them to like, what villain have you been before to, you know.
Someone summed it up very well that I think is very accurate of Nicholas Hoult without having seen these performances. But they held up the show he does with
The Gift.
Thank you, The Gift,
That's right.
and
The Menu.
and they said like the main thing that his character revolves around in those things is a sense of inadequacy, and that's
and imposing that on other people as like virtuous,
right,
as like trying to be better than other people,
right, and that's Lex Luthor.
The Great on Hulu.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
The Gift wasn't the Gift wasn't clicking for me. That's why
it wasn't clicking for me either. But I'm like, something with a G.
The Great.
Thank
yes, it's those two projects
Yeah.
that people have been pointing to as like good reasons for why he's cast as Lex Luthor, and I haven't watched them, so I can't weigh in on that. I trust that he's probably going to be a pretty good Lex Luthor. My immediate thing is I'm getting Jesse Eisenberg flashbacks.
A little bit.
That's me.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I understand. I also think Jesse Eisenberg would have been a good like traditional Lex Luthor. But he chose to go the Riddler
Mark Zuckerberg
route.
Yeah, the Mark
He
Zuckerberg
auditioned to be
route.
the Riddler, and he just kept being the Riddler. We talked about that.
Yeah. So like, but like just like I think Nicholas Hoult has the potential, much like Jesse Eisenberg, to be the Lex Luthor we saw in Batman v Superman and the more traditional Lex Luthor, or like a combination of the two. I think he's that good of an actor. So because of what we've seen of like this, just the casting of the core Superman supporting cast, I believe that we're probably going to be more in line with the traditional. But yeah, Sparks, I had the same thing of like I could see it going the Jesse Eisenberg route, and I'm not crazy about that. But obviously, I don't believe it will.
Yeah, I for no other reason than like that was the last Lex Luthor, and nobody wants that recreated. So like, yeah, I think Holt's probably going to be pretty good. Like, it wouldn't have been my. I think in my head I'd been leaning towards someone older than like older, another decade up from where Holt is.
Yeah.
I couldn't really tell you why. That's just where my head was. I think I like early Superman stuff where there's a sense of like old hating the young to Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted that back. It's one of the things I like about Kevin Spacey in Superman Returns is not to, he's a shitty person, but in the context of like that performance, there's this, and even going back to like the Christopher Reeve and Gene Hackman stuff, there's this sense of like the youth coming in and that also playing into that sense of this inadequacy and all that kind of stuff. I know better, what Lex Luthor represents at that core idea. But for like more modern stuff of what Lex Luthor has done, I think Holt's a good idea.
Also, that Gene Hackman Lex Luthor is often really fucking goofy. So like there are ways to incorporate all the Lex Luthors where he's not just strict businessman.
Yes.
Like he is a character of multitudes.
Yeah.
Of course, the one Lex Luthor that I cling to is Clancy Brown's Lex Luthor from Superman the Animated Series.
Oh, absolutely.
That's for me. That's just nostalgia because the Gene Hackman / Kevin Spacey Lex Luthor, I do like those Lex Luthors a whole lot. But there's just something more menacing about Clancy Brown businessman Lex Luthor.
Yeah, sure.
And I was definitely missing that from Jesse Eisenberg's performance. I thought I got his name mixed up with Mark freaking Zuckerberg.
I see Zuckerberg.
Yeah, I was like, no, his real name is not Mark Zuckerberg. He's Jesse Eisenberg. Anyways, the reason why I asked what kind of movies where Nicholas Hoult played a villain in is mostly so I could just like make a mental list in case I have seen parts of episodes of The Great where he is in it. I do like him in that show. I haven't seen The Menu yet, but I want to because it's food.
He's revolting in it. That's why I'm not worried about this whatsoever.
Yeah. When we got the initial announcement that he was cast as Lex Luthor, I was like, okay, cool. I want to see him what kind of Lex Luthor he plays. I don't know, just because I'm just too burnt out on the Jesse Eisenberg Lex Luthor that I want a more grounded. But I do like what Sparks was saying about the old versus the young. But also something I hope for is one of the reasons why Lex hates Superman so much is because Superman isn't human, Lex is, and Lex is essentially trying to prove to Superman that humans could do what he can do, but better.
Yeah.
Is Eisenberg in the Snyder cut of Justice League?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
because
I
he's
wanna
in
say
the he's in the Whedon cut,
He's in.
which is what I'm curious
Very
about.
very briefly, if anything. I don't remember much of him.
So
He's in
the reason
jail.
why
He's in jail.
Oh, okay. So the reason why I bring that up is because like it's it's so wild to me that like the two theatrically released really of Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. One is where he's the Riddler, and then one where he's traditional businessman because Whedon had him do the suit on the yacht with all that. And I find that so interesting that like his portrayal in Batman v Superman was so damaging to it was so damaging to that everyone's just kind of like, no, absolutely not.
We're gonna
No
form
more.
a league of our own with Deathstroke.
And I think the problem is, and I do think Gunn won't do this, is that
Mhm.
I don't mind an idea of like wanting to make Lex Luthor work in the I think the misguidedness was, I understand it. Make him like the tech bros of today.
Yeah.
And like I get where that comes from. Lex just isn't that character. Lex is the guy who would hire those guys, right? But or use those guys, but he's not that guy. There are other DC characters that can be contemporized into the tech bro model, and I just don't think Lex is one of them. There's too many things that are the tech bro guys that do suck. The Musks and there are things about them that's like ultimately like a lot of them are the stupid with money thing, right?
Yeah.
And like that's not Lex. Lex is too shrewd to be one of the tech bro mentalities, so you can't like put a square into a circle kind of thing on that one. I think that's the main thing, and as long as that's not what I think, that's where Eisenberg's thing really goes wrong, is trying to emulate the tech bro stuff, because they're a character type. They're people in our world that are a type of person, and none of them are Lex Luthor. None of them are Lex Luthor.
You know, Hackman played such a fun and goofy Lex because, you know, those movies are very much based off the Silver Age, of not the Silver Age, the Golden Age, Superman, a little bit of the Silver Age, but mostly playing in the Silver Age space of because like not really anyone but Chris Reeve was taking that movie seriously, right? Like it was very much like, this is a goofy superhero movie, and Gene Hackman at the time, even at the time, was like, I'm too good for this. This is a pool paycheck. So like so like he's very much like playing up that like camp, and he's fun in it. He's great. Don't get me wrong, Hackman's great as Lex. I even like Spacey, and Spacey is also kind of playing into that Gene Hackman campiness, but he's still, but you even see the change coming in with Spacey, right? Because Spacey is now when Brian Singer directed that movie. That movie's, it's a good thing Brandon Routh has Crisis on Infinite Earths. But like, you know, you see like we're already seeing the more modern age Lex Luthor coming into the Spacey Lex, even though he's supposed to be kind of the spiritual successor of Hackman. So like we've been living with the Clancy Brown Lex Luthor, right? Like Clancy Brown with Lex Luthor is the modern interpretation of Lex Luthor. He is that's very much who the character has been in the comics for many, many years. And so like we're seeing like that, we saw that kind of like seep in. So I want to see what I would like to see with Nicholas Hoult, who I love as an actor. I think is a great villain in The Great, and I love The Menu. Is I want to see his character in The Menu and Hank McCoy, and I want to see that kind of character, and that's the Lex I want to see him play, and I think he will. I think that's kind of the idea that they're going for. So I'm happy with his casting.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you know, in the same breath that we're saying, like, there's Eisenberg there, I'm like, there's also Rosenbaum. Like,
absolutely.
Where Rosenbaum ends up with Lex is a solid point of reference of like a younger contemporary Lex that really works. And credit where credit's due, like, I think John Cryer also is maybe part of the reason why I was kind of leaning that older idea.
Yeah.
Because there was something I really liked about what John Cryer was doing with Lex. But I don't need Nicholas Hoult to be doing what John Cryer was doing.
Yeah, I think for this specifically, I want them. James Gunn wants them to be more contemporary. So it is like two, like kind of like two, like we're both young men who are trying to save the world, but one of them's just a straight up asshole.
Yeah.
And like, why won't anyone like me? I'm doing everything you're doing, but better.
Right.
And like, I agree with like the old thing, but I think for this version, having them be contemporaries like makes sense.
Well, and also like, to be honest, I think that unless you were doing a dad-son thing, which you could. I think some of the purposes, like they do want a long universe. That's what they're hoping for, and like you need a Lex that's going to stick around for that. And so you're not gonna get Tom Hanks, as much as I think that would be incredible.
Yeah,
like that's just not what's going to happen. Although it would be Lionel.
Remember when everyone was, oh my God, Tom Hanks is Lionel Luthor? Hell yeah, bring back Lionel Luthor in a prominent role. I remember when Eisenberg, like everyone hated him after Batman v Superman. Like, what they should do is they should bring in Bryan Cranston as his dad, as Lex Luthor Senior.
Right.
That's how we
retcon that. A bad man, bald actor. Let's just get the guy who did that for 5 years.
No shade. Bryan Cranston would have been a great Lex Luthor.
No, it's true. It's just it's really lateral casting.
I only pull Tom Hanks because Tom Hanks has been saying for years that he wants to do one of these superhero supervillain movies, but he wants to be one of the main characters. He doesn't want to be some side Perry White person. He wants to be one of the main things. I'm like, I mean, Lex Luthor, that would be like, you get butts and seats for Tom Hanks as Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks as Perry White? He wouldn't
do it. But he won't do it. That's the thing. Yeah. He won't do it.
That's good though. I don't know anything about Sarah Sampaio, but it's nice to see Tessmacher be in the series in the movie.
Miss Tessmacher.
It's not Mercy Graves, but I'll take it.
Mercy Graves blew up with the piss jar.
Yes. Granny's peach tea.
What do we think about Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy?
I think it is the most perfect casting maybe ever in for a comic book character. Personal stuff aside, he's literally like he's like the fan cast for Jimmy Olsen for like the last couple of years. He's in Righteous Gemstones, a show we love. He has such young, exuberant energy. Like he really is like, of all this casting, like even more than Superman himself, this dude like radiates Jimmy Olsen. I got Superman's best pal, Jimmy Olsen, the funniest book DC has ever come out with. So if like he's really popping and people love him, I could see him getting an HBO series that's based off that book. That's really exciting. I think he's tremendous. All this casting, like I am over the moon for it, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody else if you're doing Jimmy Olsen.
Red hair and freckles, that dude is Jimmy Olsen.
Who captures Jimmy Olsen more than Skylar could. Like,
he's got gosh golly wow, like so
of our
so
contemporary actors, and I think his age range comparative to where Superman and
he's
Lois
younger.
Are,
yeah,
I think it's gonna. I think he's actually a lot closer to them, but he can play younger.
That's true. He looks young enough. Yeah.
But it's that youthful energy that I don't know that we've ever had in Jimmy in live action. To be honest with you,
Batman v Superman again.
No.
I just saw the life drain from your eyes.
You know what's funny? The actor who plays his mom on Righteous Gemstones was Eve Tessmacher on Smallville.
That's cute. That's great. That is great.
Yeah, I think he's got that twinkle in the eye for Jimmy. Yeah, that just works.
They're David Cornsweet and Skylar Gisondo are 3 years apart. But if you look at their pictures, like it looks like an adult standing next to a teenager.
Yeah,
Skylar's been able to play a teenager
for like a decade. It also helps that he's a small man.
Yeah. My fan cast was never going to happen, so like I'm really happy with this. I think it's great. I think it's perfect. I really wanted Sophia Lillis as a gender swap, as a gender swapped Jimmy Olsen. That was never ever going to happen. But so I'm happy with this though. This is great.
That is really good casting. If we're going to do
it, is pretty good casting. Like if they were going to do it,
no idea who we're talking about, right?
Yeah, I looked him up. I actually looked him up, and I was like, oh, because I recognize him from Santa Clarita Diet.
Oh, sure.
Oh, right. Yep. He is in that.
God, he's in everything, guys. He's
having a great career.
Yeah, I think he's perfect as Jimmy Olsen. I am so ready to actually have Jimmy Olsen in a Superman movie, and Superman's not just like because like when Brandon mentioned BVS, and I'm like,
who played Superman?
James Olsen,
whatever.
Who played Superman? Who played Jimmy in Superman Returns?
That one guy
Oh.
who was in a lot of popular things in the 2010s, and he's like a young, skinny lad. He was fine. He was okay.
Yeah.
And also, you're forgetting Jimmy Olsen, not James Olsen from Smallville, when James Olsen died, and then his younger brother Jimmy was handed the camera.
I'm not forgetting him. It
Deliberately didn't bring
doesn't
it up.
count.
What are the
Sam
Ashmore twins?
Sam Huntington. Yeah, okay, yeah, I remember. Yeah, he was okay. It was pretty good, Jimmy. He looked the part. Okay. Yeah. What are the? Dare I ask what the personal politics that you mentioned were, Ryan?
It involves Palestine.
Oh yeah,
Which
Skylar Gazondo is
Very pro-Israel.
Very pro-Israel.
Yep.
Sparks, you didn't mention anything about this, but I did want to mention on your behalf, the Muppets Mayhem was canceled.
Yeah, I did. To be honest with you, I haven't finished the season yet. I want to. I never expected it to get more than a single season,
Mhm.
and from everything that I understand from everybody else, they kind of put a lot into the first season without. They had ideas for another, but they never. I don't think anybody expected it. And I think that's fine. I think Electric Mayhem can just be like a one season show, and that's okay. I didn't think that was going to be the saving grace of the Muppets. I didn't think that was going to get enough attention. I personally went into it considering it was probably a limited series, so this isn't shocking to me. I didn't expect anybody to show up for Electric Mayhem to begin with, really, let alone a second season.
Sure.
So I think like the path forward for the Muppets is limited series if you're doing it like you're doing a one-off or bringing the Muppets back in full proper. But
Right.
I still think it's cool. Like as people have pointed out, like they made something really special. I think that they've done a good job. The comedy is there. It's really cool to have one thing that does focus on the band. They have a whole album that they made with the Electric Mayhem that is out with guest musical artists
Spotify.
that showed up throughout the season. Like I consider that a win. The fact that the show got to be made at all, I think, and a lot of the people at Muppets team seem to think is a win, regardless of this.
Yeah. Too bad Disney doesn't know what to do with the Muppets.
I mean, that's so true. But like, and that's the thing is like, they haven't known what to do with the Muppets for a while. So like, even if this experiment didn't like take off, this was still a better idea than they've had for a while.
It's true.
So,
man, what was the other thing you wanted to bring up?
Oh, me or Sparks?
Ben. I said Ben.
Oh yeah, Dave
Yeah.
Filoni. Dave Filoni's
Oh, the
promotion.
Filoni thing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's in the title of the episode.
You're right. You're right. I did write that 40 minutes ago. Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What's the news?
So I want to quote one of my favorite Star Wars creators on TikTok who runs an account called the Church of Star Wars. And he's like, "Praise be Filoni. This is the way." Honestly, I think it's about time that Dave Filoni was promoted to Chief Creative Officer of Lucasfilm, and I'm excited personally. I am very, very excited, and I also just wanted to be on the record that I am definitely not in the camp of down with Kathleen Kennedy because she's an executive producer. She's the one who just makes sure all the projects get money. Why people give that woman hate, I don't know, because as far as I'm aware, she just says, "Here's money, do the thing."
I know. Ooh, pick me. I know.
Brandon, give me the answer, please.
Sexism.
So, yeah.
10
What do I get?
Brandon Dorr.
Yay!
Yeah. But looking at Filoni's track record, I mean, I watching Rebels before watching Ahsoka. Rebels was fantastic. Ahsoka, I really enjoyed, especially the last few episodes. Even like the bits of episodes of Clone Wars I have seen, and I'm really excited. I am looking forward to Filoni being, the creative head. He knows what he's doing. He obviously loves Star Wars so much. I am optimistic. I want to be a little bit cautiously optimistic because I feel there have been a few times where other big name creators or big name producers and story heads have risen to a higher part of the company and things never worked out. I feel like that happened with Jeff Johns at DC a few times, or other people like that. But at the same time, I don't feel I mean, yes, I'm like, woohoo, let's go. But I'm also not in the let's go, Star Wars is saved, because I don't think Star Wars ever needed to be saving. I feel like Star Wars is still good. There are just now that we have a person whose track record with story, with good story and good character moments is at the head of the creative side. Star Wars can just go is gonna go nowhere but up.
You are right. I don't know if there's anyone who loves Star Wars more than Dave Filoni. I'd rather have him than someone who's not as passionate about the project. I'm just totally kind of indifferent to it because it feels like he's kind of already been that person to me.
Well,
I thought he was. Yeah, I thought he was already that person.
Yeah, so like,
well, I knew he wasn't because this was one of the things is that, and some people have pointed out like there's a fear that a project like Andor wouldn't be what it would be if Dave Filoni had been in this position before, and I don't know how accurate that is. But I do think this is one of those things where I go back to like when we were talking about the sequel trilogy. It bothers me that Filoni wasn't in this position at the time because the inconsistency across the story, that's like what this role is for.
Yeah.
And Filoni wouldn't have let it become a inconsistent mess.
Right, Skywalker wouldn't have happened.
Right. Like it just wouldn't have gone that way because he would have been there to shepherd in like, no, you said this, that means that this has to matter and you can't just like backtrack on this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a like, to me, it's not a too little too late, but it's definitely a little late to the game. Is that I think that Star Wars doesn't need this point. And I'll even say like, I think Ahsoka would have been in a better place ultimately if this were the position he was in instead of the head writer.
Yeah.
And showrunner. Because I do think like he'll still write episodes and he'll still probably like he's going to direct his movie and all that. But I think that a lot more is going to get deferred down with him being a guiding hand instead of the person who's architecting every bit of something. And I think that that's something that Ahsoka needed because I think Filoni got too lost in the weeds on that one.
Yeah.
Just because he had no one else with him in the writing space to bounce ideas off of. And that could be, we know that might not entirely be his fault because like he might not have had the budget or the allowance to get a writing room with him for that show. So I'm not going to pin that all on him, but I do think like him moving back into this position is better for the health of all Star Wars projects because they need a person with a mind like his to shepherd projects through. And I've seen some people like afraid that there's not going to be any more room for like really departing from the tone of Star Wars, something like Andor. But I don't think that's so true because like it's already been happening in Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, where we've gotten things that are shifting pretty far out.
Skeleton Crew still coming out. That's different.
Yeah, I'm really not stressed about that idea of it. I think it's ultimately better that Filoni is in this position because I think this is more what he's made for. Not that he should never write anything again. I think he should when he's got the passion and the lineup for it. Like he should jump in and do it. But definitely he shouldn't be like soloing out there on a series or something like that.
Much like George Lucas, sorry, real quick. Much like George Lucas, I don't want George Lucas to be writing and directing everything, but he is the ideas man, and he's really good at getting all those ideas. Like when he
understands the themes of Star Wars.
Exactly. So like I'm perfectly happy with this.
When real quickly, Ben, Filoni. When you look at Filoni's track record, the things that he's done well, he's gotten a lot of credit for a lot of writers. You look at like Rebels, Clone Wars, those aren't solely him. Clone Wars was very much him and Lucas and everyone in the writer's room developing. Rebels was him and everyone in the writer's room developing. And one of the issues that we ran into with Ahsoka is that it was just him. He's the only writer at least the only credited writer on that series. And I think Sparks is absolutely right. Like putting him once again in this position to be like, I'm telling you here, we got, that kind of like Kevin Feige position that people always talk about that Star Wars needed. I don't necessarily agree that it needed, but I think like that person to be like, A and B, and then kind of like helping the story along and like forming the story and like shaping it but like delegating it to other people, allowing other people to bring their ideas, allowing them. Star Wars had a story group during the sequel trilogy that JJ flat ignored when he was doing Rise of Skywalker, and it was disbanded. So like Star Wars has tried doing something like this before, and Filoni was the person that it needed to be at that time. And so Sparks, I also agree with Sparks that like a little too late, but I'm glad that Filoni is now kind of here doing it now.
Importantly, it also puts him in that position, which he's been doing this whole time, but he's the guy who, like, Brandon's right, like there's a lot of people who are doing the things that make us love a lot of these projects so much inside of Rebels, and like there's other writers and stuff and all that. But because of Filoni, where Filoni's gotten over the years, his position and his knowledge of the themes of Star Wars, he is the person who gets to go and advocate for this is why we should have this. And I think this is now just like, he doesn't have to advocate to anybody. He gets to just say like, yes, you're right. We're doing this in Star Wars, instead of having to kind of take it up the ladder and say like, I'm telling you this is important.
Yeah.
Or that we need to do this. And he has a respectful knowledge for like what's being fostered and created, whether that's on the comic side, like he's very aware of everything that's going on with the like the High Republic era, and finding ways to incorporate and care about that on the other media side. You want someone in that position.
Yeah.
Frankly, like with what Star Wars is doing right now, you want somebody in that position. So it should be Filoni, and it makes sense. Because it's not just like, oh, he gets to unilaterally put everything down, but he does get to guide things.
Yeah. Ben, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say that because now Filoni is in this position, it, like Sparks was saying, it's a lot easier for him to greenlight or to get projects done. He doesn't have to go up the ladder anymore. He doesn't have to fight for like a certain thing to get made or to get done. And I also want to say that while I do really enjoy Ahsoka, I think Filoni shines brightest when he is in a writer's room with a bunch of other people, using Clone Wars and Rebels as the prime examples, because those shows are well written. And if I remember correctly, a lot of times when it does say written by Dave Filoni, it's followed by 2 or 3 other writers.
And you're actually not wrong about that. There are quite a few times where he's not the sole writer on a script, or he's not the sole credited writer on a script. Now there are quite a number of times where he is, but there are times where he is the co-writer.
Yeah, but I do think with someone like Filoni, he is not afraid to work with people, and I love that. I love how he's not afraid to work with other writers. He's not afraid to work with other creators and just like, hey, how can we make this better? And I also feel that even if a project like Andor, if Filoni was in charge when Andor was made, I'm pretty sure he would have given Ryan, remind me, who directed and created Andor?
Tony Gilroy.
Thank you. He would have given Tony Gilroy, was like, look, you have a great vision for this story, do it. I feel like Filoni has that eye when a creator comes to him. It's like, hey, I have this idea, this story, and he's there to like, yeah, go for it, fire away. This is amazing. In the case of Andor, because Andor was like the best Star Wars thing we've gotten in so long.
If it were Favreau and Filoni had been attached as co-chief creative officers, I'd be concerned. But it's just Filoni. I'm okay with it, because I think Favreau and Filoni have kind of like a yes man thing going on, where they're just kind of like echo chambering, and it could get lost, and their kind of ideas just kind of get like, they just kind of get high on each other. But like Filoni as a singular creative, I trust more than
this is something. This is something I was going to say too, is that, you know, like we're praising the decision and everything, but like Filoni's not perfect, and not everything he said or done with Star Wars do I agree with. There's definitely like pieces where I think he's got the wrong idea about it, or it doesn't work for me, or whatever. I'd still rather someone with his passion and knowledge be in this position than anybody else.
Yeah.
Even if I don't agree with every decision he makes. And that's I think a better place to be. I'll tell you one thing, I don't think Kenobi would have been such a difficult project to get through if Filoni had any more direct involvement overseeing it than he could have.
Yeah.
At the time. So this is the thing, is like, I think him pulling back into a position with all the things they want to do with Star Wars, him being able to be that guy who can make sure he's seeing the big picture of it all, and helping keep it on track, is a better position for Star Wars and a better position for him.
Yeah. It's also going to be interesting. Now he's the Kevin Feige of Star Wars. Is he still going to write and direct their big Mandoverse Star Wars movie? Which is probably yes, but that's very interesting. Like, people of that caliber, like,
I don't know if he'll write it anymore.
Yeah.
This is one of the things. It's like, I think he will, but I don't think he'll write it alone. As they were saying.
Yeah.
They have confirmed that, like, even though he's in this promotion, that is his thing to direct. But that being said, I don't think we see him direct anything else between here and there. Now that he's going to be this creative officer on all the other stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think we see him direct again until he gets there.
He'll still write the middle episode of the next episode, the next Mando.
He'll do some. We also got the note that they seem to actively be developing Ahsoka season 2. And so I'm sure he'll be like pretty heavily involved in overseeing that.
I hope
but
so.
that will have a writer's room now. We know it will for a fact. So like, I don't think he's going to be as deep in the process on that one either. I wouldn't be surprised if he directs an episode there. I'll say that, because I think that's still like him getting kind of his legs under him before he goes to a big budget film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about this also is that we saw kind of what a chief creative officer promotion did to Feige, right? It stretched him far too thin. The Marvel brand of the Marvel Entertainment is a far bigger company with many, many other things to concern themselves with than Star Wars, than Lucasfilm is.
Yeah.
And I think what we saw with with Feige, Feige dropped his Star Wars movie. He's not, he's hired Nate Moore and has kind of like this. We learned from this from the MCU book that he's got like a kind of a brain trust of producers that kind of took over his role post Infinity Saga, which debilitating returns maybe. But like Filoni, because he's being the chief creative officer of a smaller company relatively, it does seem like he has more room to do what James Gunn is doing, right? James Gunn is running DC Studios, but also directing Superman Legacy. Filoni is able to be the chief creative officer, do all these things, and direct one episode of TV show or direct a movie. He doesn't need to be as heavily involved in season 2 of Ahsoka as he was in season 1. And I think Sparks is right on the money there. I think he'll probably get a co-writer for that Mando movie.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to mention about, because earlier when we were talking about how the news broke, is how I am optimistic about it. I really am optimistic about the future of Star Wars stories going forward, because we were announced that we're getting a Rey Skywalker movie where she is essentially rebuilding the Jedi Order. We're getting like the rise of the Jedi, like with the first Jedi. I am excited for all this deep lore stuff, and Filoni he's very good with Star Wars lore, and I am really, really excited. Quite frankly, I know I talked about how happy I was with Star Wars when I was watching Rebels and watching Ahsoka, reignited my love of the franchise, because I'm not going to lie, Rise of Skywalker, it didn't completely sour it, but it was definitely one of those things that's like, I like 2 out of those 3 movies, and I don't know if I'm gonna have an Attack of the Clones situation where when I first saw it, I hated it, and then 20 years down the line, I started like, there's some good bits of that movie.
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Very true. But I'm looking forward to it, because the man knows story and he knows how to make good stories. Now, once again, like Spark said, he's not perfect. There are things about Star Wars that I know I probably don't agree about with him. But I'm more optimistic and I'm more excited than anything. And I also am totally fine with more Star Wars shows, films, whatever, coming out at a leisurely pace. What I don't want is just like, I'm pretty sure he's not going to do this either, but I don't want a constant shotgun stream of Star Wars content, just like more. I am fine with once in a while film, once in a while show on Disney Plus, once in a while another film. I am more than okay with a trickle of Star Wars shows and films.
Right now, we have 2 shows coming out next year and no movies, so that's all we got to worry about.
I want to rebuttal that a little bit, only to say like it is kind of a consistent stream of Star Wars. However, that is spread across a lot of mediums, because something Star Wars is doing that the MCU can't do or isn't doing, depending on how you look at it, is Star Wars has, as I think you're alluding to, Ben, the films and live action television shows, but there's animated shows like The Bad Batch, which have also been coming out. There's or Tales of the Jedi. There's Visions. the books and comics,
lots of them.
Visions, and games like Jedi Survivor and
Outlaws.
So
there's a lot of Star Wars.
There's a lot of Star Wars, but I do think you are able to like, it's more digestible because it's not I'm watching 8 live action television shows and 3 films or whatever. Like you're able to go to what stream you want when you feel like it. But credit where credit's due, there is a pretty consistent amount of Star Wars coming out every single year across all of these mediums. It's just more diverse and spread out, but it is happening.
Yeah, when I was talking about that, I wasn't even thinking about the games or the comic books, and yeah, those do what you can. But yeah, I probably should have reiterated that when I say like Star Wars content, I mean like major films and major television shows that become like marquee events.
But I don't think that like. I get what you're saying, Ben. I don't want to discredit your opinion here or anything, but like I also don't think that what we've been getting as far as Star Wars shows has been overwhelming. I think the quality has been a problem. Because especially when you look at like Obi-Wan and Mando season 3 and Book of Boba Fett, like those projects are exhausting.
I think was it last year?
Yeah.
With Book of Boba Fett at the beginning of the year, Kenobi in the middle, and Mando at the end. That was a little like, specifically because Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi had their problems, and then even the Mando season didn't come back as strong as we wanted it to. Like that was a little like, whoa, slow your roll.
Second draft,
and to be fair, if you were watching Bad Batch season 2 also happened in the midst of that. So like it was a little like hold your horses a little bit
and
there.
If I may really quick, I also feel that because of the fan reactions to stuff like Mando, Book of Boba, or end of Mando season 3, Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, it soured people for when Andor came out after Mando season 3, right?
Andor came out after Obi-Wan.
Oh my God, Andor was at the end of last year too. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, because I remember because I will never forget when I was at work and I was talking to another big because people would come to me asking if Star Wars stuff is good. I'm that guy at my job, and they're like, hey, any good Star Wars stuff? I'm like, yeah. Andor was like, I don't know. I was kind of like, I remember vividly talking to this guy at work, and he was saying that how burnt out he was by Obi-Wan, and I'm like, watch Andor.
Well, but what's so interesting about that, I find so fascinating, is that you're absolutely right, because like Book of Boba Fett is a headlining show with a fan favorite character that has been a fan favorite for a long time, decades, and the show sucks. Quite frankly, it's terrible. And then you get Obi-Wan, which is a show that people have been wanting for not quite as long as Boba Fett, but again for decades. Like we want to see Obi-Wan, we want to see Ewan McGregor back, we want to see the story. Great, show's not great. So then you were telling people, okay, yeah, we know we did those 2 blunders of the shows that you were really excited about, but here's this show of a character that maybe you remember from Rogue One, but honestly probably don't. Here's this show though, and this show is going to be the good one. That's a really hard sell than if Boba Fett and Obi-Wan were like solid and great and like hell yeah, I want more Star Wars. Hell yeah, I'll give this no-name character a chance. That was what that more than anything hurt Andor, because Andor is the one that like you want to be like, Andor's the experiment. Andor's the one where it's like, we're doing this because we have a passion for it, not because we want to sell a toy. So we're going to hope that you like everything prior to this so that you'll give this a chance. Oh shit, you don't like anything? Crap, this is going to bomb. And it's no fault of Andor. It's just that's just how TV people, that's how trends are with the general audience.
Yeah, and I was and like all 4 of us, of course, we were championing Andor when it was coming out. We were praising it as one of the best Star Wars things. It was like number 2 or number 1 on our best of the year last year, and because it deserves it, because Andor was that good of a television show, and it brought us into a side of Star Wars that frankly we hardly ever see. It was like definitely a more gritty, a more like people were like they were losing their minds. It's like, oh my God, they say shit in Star Wars now. What is the world we're going into? It's like, this is the world of espionage. Yeah, this is the world of espionage.
Political in a world where it's called Star Wars, and we don't really get a lot of that.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, and it was fantastic. And we had to tell our friends who were kind of like, I don't want to watch the show about Andor. We're like, for the love of God, watch it. Because when I finally convinced my work friend to watch the show, a few days later, he comes up to me and he's like, you were right. Andor was amazing. I'm like, told you.
I don't know if Filoni could have fixed Book of Boba Fett. I do think he probably could have fixed Obi-Wan.
Oh yeah.
But because he was part of the creative team of Boba Fett to an extent already. So like we'll see. But hey, Andor season 2 coming out soon. I saw that leaked teaser. Hell yeah, baby.
Couple months.
I think something that Ben kind of talked about there too as well was recognizing what didn't work about a show. It's also important that it is a lot easier for them to turn the tiny yacht that is Star Wars and fix problems that have been showing up with the fan reaction than the massive cruise ship that is the MCU. It's a lot easier for them to react to what's working for fans and what's not. So I do think like you'll see more. Okay. So we
Quality
need to
control.
think about this. We need to think about that. XYZ. What was happening here? What's something that we're willing to stand on? What's something that like maybe the fans are right? And I think we're going to see some of that play into Star Wars fairly quickly because the projects are more spread out and there's not as many to have to turn.
And one other little thing about why I don't want to say I have Filoni. I want to say I'm putting all my trust and faith into Dave Filoni, but I do want to put some faith in him as a creator and as someone who loves this genre. He's, as far as I know, and this is going off from an interview clip that Sam Witwer did a long time ago. But Filoni is not afraid to say, "Oh shit, you're right, I was wrong," and then work on a thing. Because there's a scene, you guys probably know what I'm talking about, but for those who don't, Filoni and Sam Witwer, they were in the room together. They were talking about how a scene during Clone Wars where Anakin was talking to his mom's ghost, essentially saying, "Hey, I have a wife now. I want you to meet her." And then Sam's like, actually, Shmi met Padme in episode 1. And then Dave's like, shit, you're right. Like, Filoni had this great thing, and then someone else comes in and it's like, actually, they did an actually moment, but it wasn't what's the word I'm looking for?
Filoni wasn't willing to die on the hill that he was right.
Right.
He knew he was wrong.
No, he knew he was wrong, but also Whitmer was like, actually, it wasn't a degrading. Thank you. It wasn't a actually moment. It was like, oh, hey, actually, there was actually this moment in Star Wars Episode 1. It's like, oh yeah, you're right. So then Filoni was able to essentially, like Brandon was alluding to earlier, audio listeners, he was like turning the ship around. He's like, nope, course correct. He's like, you're right. That's a big thing. She actually met Padme for a hot second. Okay, let's do something different then. He's not afraid.
Sorry, real quickly. Like, I also think that like when you're talking about the turning of the ship, this kind of like, I think Sparks is right about the difference between the MCU as a cruise ship and a yacht. But like, turning a cruise ship, a lot of effort. You're going to take a lot. You're going to take that turn's going to be wide. That turn's going to be long. Cruise ship, not quite. I think also the issues that are plaguing Star Wars right now are not as dire, frankly, because there's not as many projects that need quote unquote fixing. A couple of, the only issues that we've cited when we watch the shows are like, a second draft on the script, another writer in the writer's room. Those aren't fundamental issues. There's not rot at the core of this thing that's going to like crumble. Like I think the MCU's dire is not the word, but I think the MCU is in a bit more dire straits than Lucasfilm is, because there is a massive creative overhaul that I believe needs to happen with the Disney Plus shows, whereas Lucasfilm just needs to hire a second writer or something.
I'll only rebuttal that a little bit in the sense that I think Mando season 3 and Ahsoka didn't do a lot of favors to like general audiences watching Star Wars, because everybody was pretty hype on the Mando verse and where it's going, and like you're building up to this movie thing. Mando season 3 disappointed a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, but like they felt like the show lost its way a bit. And then Ahsoka worked for some but didn't work for everybody, and like I can hardly blame the people who are like coming to it without knowledge of Rebels and trying to get into it and it's not working for them. Like that happens. I like the show more than I dislike it, but I understand a lot of general audience reaction where it's like it's too much to have to sift through. It's too much to try and connect to, that it's not working for them, or they just don't feel up to it right now. And I do think that's a little bit of a steep, like there's a lot of good stuff I think happening in Star Wars and what's on the horizon, but the center core right now feels like it's what's going on with the Mando stuff, Thrawn and Ahsoka, and that stuff didn't work so well for a lot of people this year. So I do think there is something of like you kind of got to win people back again now.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Sure. Yeah, we'll see. Okay. Do you guys want to talk about the Aquaman trailer? We haven't had a chance to.
Ben, you're about to bounce out.
Yeah.
Do you want to weigh in on the Aquaman trailer, or do you want to weigh in on the Scream 7 stuff?
I don't think I haven't seen the new Aquaman trailer. I saw the first one. I was like, oh shit, there's a new Aquaman trailer. I didn't really realize that.
Oh man.
I know. I'm failing as a fake nerd.
No, you're good.
For the Scream 7 stuff, I only seen the headlines. I haven't really dove into the controversy and exactly what's going on. I mean, it sucks because I really do like the actress who essentially took over Neve Campbell's role in the Scream franchise. I really enjoyed her in Scream 5 and Scream 6. Scream 6 was a fantastic movie. It freaking sucks, especially, but once again, the whole conflict around that now, I do not have a lot of knowledge in. And for those people who do, who are speaking up about it, yeah, I don't know. That's, to me, that's just something that I don't really have opinions on. And it's partially because I know I'm very ignorant in the subject, and also I don't want to like say something really stupid because I do that sometimes.
Oh, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, but as for Aquaman, from the trailer that I did see, I'm looking forward to it. It looks cool. I'm like, yay, more Aquaman. And also, I just love Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and he created TikTok, and he's like, look, I'm gonna be doing more stuff, and it looks like he's having a lot of fun. And there's like this really, it's not part of the trailer, but there's this really cool like behind the scenes moment where he's trying the tights on, and he's just it looks like he's just having a grand old time. He's like singing, he's dancing around. The poor costumer is probably trying to make him hold. It's like, hold still, damn it! But he's like, no, this is great. These look great on me.
We've heard a lot of not great things coming from the Aquaman of the Lost Kingdom production crews, production screenings, test screenings, things like that. Had me worried. And look, it could still be bad. It could be bad. It's a movie that could be bad. All movies could be bad. But the second trailer showcases everything that I loved from the first Aquaman film. We got a great Black Manta design with this awesome new trident. We got a giant monstrous sea turtle falling down this thing with and the CGI looks great. This like kind of like this like I don't know the name of it, like this dark king that used to control the Black Trident, but like this it looks kind of like this kind of like wood thing with the.
He looks like driftwood.
A little bit. Actually, yeah. It looks awesome. Like it just looks awesome. I love the dynamic that we're seeing between Patrick Wilson and Jason Momoa. I'm so excited for this movie. I love that first Aquaman movie. It is my favorite DC movie. And I'm so stoked for the second one. I really hope it's good. I trust James Wan. I want it to be good. I hope it's good. And this new trailer also says it's the last stand. Obviously, Momoa's not going to be Aquaman after this. He'll probably be Lobo. But I'm so down.
He's a better Lobo than Aquaman. Like,
no, I don't disagree. It's just funny. Like, who's going to carry over into what? And that kind of thing. Like, were you Aquaman? No.
Mama man. This trailer looks really fun. Like it's exactly what Brandon said. Like it's giving me more of that first movie, which is like giant underwater nonsense in like the best comic book way. And it's like fully powering up Black Manta, and it definitely looks like they're gonna kill that baby in this movie, which is really funny because that's straight up the comic. That's what happened. Black Manta kills his whole family, and Aquaman gets revenge. So like I don't know how explicit it'll be, but it very much looks like they show. They show someone dying in this trailer, one of the side characters. I'm not gonna say for you, Ben, because if you haven't seen the trailer, but like it's in the trailer, meaning like this is probably gonna be a brutal movie for Aquaman. And like that's great. That's fine. Like I love high stakes. I like make Aquaman like put his back against the wall. and like hang out with his brother and have goofy adventures.
But it's
Mhm.
also going to have a lot of humor and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, it's very much what Brandon was saying. Like it's everything that I liked in the first Aquaman. I'm just seeing more of, and I'm like, yes, that's all I want.
The big spectacle is
more
like,
of Aquaman 1.
he rides a seahorse. Like it's 100%. Give me that. Like
it's just so colorful.
Yeah.
I know, it's so like, again, like the first Aquaman movie is really great, and like, so like I'm looking at this trailer, I'm like, it's just everything I liked from that first movie, just more of it. I love the way James Wan films the underwater sequences. I love the way they look. In the first film and in this one, looks no different. It's beautiful, it's colorful. There's so much like this feels like the kind of blockbuster that you don't get anymore, like with like natural like proper lighting and special effects you can see and no particle effects covering everything, and like it looks like that kind of thing, and like that's what I loved about the first Aquaman. I'm getting that again. Excellent.
Mhm.
I'm so glad I'm just getting that again.
Also, one thing I'm really excited for, Yahya Abdul-Mateen as Black Manta again.
He
and
looks so good.
His ass kicking looking scar that he has on his face. I'm like, dude. I mean, I honestly missed him. I don't know why. The last thing I like. Oh no, he was in Candyman. Candyman was really good.
Mhm.
But also in the DC role, his role in Watchmen, the HBO Watchmen, chef kiss, absolutely amazing.
Absolutely.
And the fact that he's back in the DC role just makes me happy, because I'm like, yay.
I'm very glad that he's back and he's the featured prominent villain, because like in the first Aquaman, like no shame on the movie, like Ocean Master is the bad guy for that movie, but he's the secondary villain. It's a more simplified role. There's not a lot for him to grit his teeth into, but now he's central. I do think we're going to get a lot more. Like Mateen doing a great job with what is given to the table, but now he's just going to have more variety for what he can bring to the performance. I think that's really exciting. Yeah, James Wan is making blockbusters in a way that I wish more people were. Colorful and bright and fun. And that's what I want.
I don't know if this is good, but if this is like, it's completely stupid for me to say, but like we were talking, there was a lot of discourse on Twitter about Gore Verbinski being in director jail for frankly no reason. And it feels kind of like he's doing, like James Wan Aquaman films are cut from the same cloth that those blockbuster films were from the early 2000s, those Pirates of the Caribbeans, the Verbinski ones. Like it does feel like these are the kind of the successor of that. They're crazy, they're wild, they're throw everything at the kitchen sink with massive spectacle. And maybe that's why I'm so drawn to them, because like I hunger for that, and I'm getting that here.
Much as I felt about the Marvels, both in anticipation of it and in seeing it, I just want to go have a good time at the movies again. Yes. And that's what I did with the Marvels. That's what I want to do with this one. I just want to go have a good time at the movies with these comic book characters. Like it doesn't need to be, and I'm grateful that it isn't beholden to the universe of that, because like it doesn't matter anymore. So like it's not a factor.
They've cut out both Batman.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Like who needs it? Like, just let the movie just be the movie now.
I was trying to find the name of this guy, because he was one of the villains of the animated Aquaman trilogy that we watched.
Yeah.
And his name's Scavenger, and he's basically like a tech guy, and he has like a bunch of underwater mining equipment. It looks like Black Manta might be teaming up with him in this, and that villain is really cool.
That's a great animated thing, by the way.
Yeah, 100% fantastic.
Which I'm pretty sure is pulled off Max now.
God damn it!
Isn't Randall Park?
Randall Park, isn't he teaming up with Randall Park in this movie as Dr. Wu?
I don't know if Randall Park's back for this movie or not.
Neither do I. He hasn't been in any of the trailers, so
in these trailers, Black Manta has a bunch of like undersea like vehicles, and they look like what the Scavenger uses in that Aquaman trilogy.
Yeah.
Right. And he's just like a cool like underwater miner evil man. So it looks like he could be teaming up with a bunch of villains to ruin Aquaman's life, which it looks like he does. He succeeds.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Shin, not Dr. Wu. He is credited in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, but yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I'm I'm just excited to see it.
Yep.
I'm just
me too.
I'm hoping for the best.
To
me, this is not the swan song of the Snyder DC verse that really happened with the Flash. I just want a good sequel to Aquaman.
Yeah.
Me too.
That's
me
all
too.
this is to me.
Me too. And one more thing before I head out, because I gotta get ready to go to my friend's wedding rehearsal. Yay! I still find it absolutely hilarious because I remember like 10-ish, 15-ish years ago when Aquaman was the butt of many jokes. People were always laughing, like a lot of people who weren't in the like casual comic book fans or people who had like maybe 1 foot in the comic book sphere, one out. They were constantly referenced to Super Friends skits, the jokes about Aquaman's like, I can only talk to fish, completely ignoring the amazing Justice League Aquaman with his hook for a hand, and he's the Viking Aquaman badass mofo that he is. And going from like New 52 on, how Aquaman was like one of the best-selling books of the New 52, and then the Aquaman movie was one of the best movies of the DCEU,
Made
and
$1 billion.
we're getting a sequel to that.
It's the
I'm just
highest
like, wow.
grossing DC film ever, I think.
Probably still the case, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not Batman, it's not Superman, it's mother effing Aquaman, and that just makes me smile because I feel like this is like a bit of a character vindication in a way, where a character who is the butts of many jokes is like he's one of the biggest badasses, and he's now a household name, and I love that. I think it's amazing, and I am like, hey, the comics are still good. As far as I know, the comics are still good. You have an actor who really enjoys playing this role in Jason Momoa, and you obviously have James Wan, who is passionate and he's having fun. The actors are having fun on set, as far as I am aware. Like you guys were mentioning that there's production problems, and that kind of scares me a little bit. I wasn't privy to that information beforehand, but still,
it's had a lot of reshoots, which aren't a big deal. Some of the test screenings have not been great. These are just hearsay. We don't know for sure,
right?
But so we don't.
Right,
you
but
know, it could still be good.
Yeah, but going off the first Aquaman film, a film we all loved, a film we all enjoyed. I think we're gonna get more of that in this new movie. I am once again. I never thought I would say it, but I am really excited for an Aquaman movie. This is gonna be fun and fantastic, and I cannot wait.
Hell yeah.
So The Dark Knight made $1.006 billion. That is the second highest grossing DC film ever, with Aquaman at $1.14 billion.
Okay.
And unfortunately, just like Captain Marvel made $1 billion and the Marvels made nothing, this movie's probably going to make 1/10 of that money because that's the landscape that we're in right now.
All right, Ben, we'll plug your stuff before you leave.
Yes. So, anyways, you could find me on the internet. Absolutely looking forward to more Star Wars, and of course, looking forward to Aquaman at BenMagnet27 on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Threads. You could also find me writing for Old School Gamer Magazine, Fusion Gaming Magazine, GoNintendo.com, and also I haven't gotten it in the mail yet, but the latest issue of Old School Gamer Magazine with 2 really big articles for me went to press last week. It should be hitting people's subscribers' mailboxes soon. And then I'm going to double check the website to see if you could buy it just like the single issue by itself, because I'm really, really proud of the articles I wrote in that. But also looking forward to January, because one of those articles I have in this issue is part 1 of part 2. And I'm working on part 2 right now. So I'll give you more information when that comes up. And of course, also subscribe to D and Dark, which is the Dungeons and Dragons real play podcast where I play Mary Frankenstein. And that one's also really good. Newest episode came out this week. We're setting up some more stuff that's going to come. Obviously more campaign stuff down the road, but it's a really great show. I'm really happy that these guys, all 3 of them, really enjoy it, and I can't wait to share it with you. So, yeah.
All right, Ben. Talk to you later, my friend.
Talk to you later, guys. Bye.
Bye, Ben.
Farewell.
Bye.
All right.
Mommy.
So the last thing on the that we want to talk about is the news of Scream 7. I'm just going to say what it is real quickly, and then we'll get into the discussion. Because there's one thing around it that I want to contextualize. Also, Melissa Barrera was fired from production of Scream 7. We know this is Christopher Landon coming in from I think the team's called Radio Silence. Christopher Landon is coming in to direct this new film. Melissa Barrera has been fired. Jenna Ortega has left. We kind of knew she would have anyway because of scheduling with Wednesday, but this was more of a official, I'm not doing this. No, much more of a stance here. Off the back of this, James Vanderbilt and Guy Busiek, are set to write a completely new script for Scream 7, and they're hoping that Neve Campbell will return this time after they didn't give her enough money for Scream 6.
And this came out today, and it's rumor, so I don't know if it's been confirmed or not since I last looked at it. But apparently, she's denied the offer that they gave her. But again, that's just like a random news source. It wasn't Deadline or anything, so like that could change.
In terms of the Jenna Ortega stuff, if I recall correctly, it was never confirmed. It was like reported, but like rumor reported that she would be a reduced role in Scream 7 because of conflicts with scheduling for filming Wednesday post the strikes, but not that she wouldn't be in the film at all. And none of the scheduling stuff holds water anymore now that they're changing the script anyway, which means it's not filming when it was originally going to.
Yeah.
So I'm only saying this because the studio has tried to say like, no, she's out because of scheduling conflicts. And it's like the day after is when it was official that she said she's not in the movie anymore. This is not because of that. This is because she's in support with Melissa Barrera and is not happy that she was fired because the schedule was going to be shifted around anyway.
The only thing I'm going to say about that is that during the strikes, and then I want to get off the reason why she's not coming back for the film, because we all know the reason. The reason is because of this. During the strikes, it was reported that Scream 7 and Wednesday scheduling had moved to be concurrently. So Jenna Ortega could not return because she was going to be an executive producer on Wednesday also. That was never confirmed because of the strikes. Obviously, that was just what the reporting was happening. But it was all what I had heard was always that she wasn't going to be able to make both things work, and she had to choose Wednesday over Scream 7. Now that doesn't matter. Like Sparks was saying, everything that Sparks said is absolutely true. Scream 7 cannot film when it was supposed to, so because they are retooling the script because of this bullshit. So Jenna Ortega has made it official herself. She is not coming back, which makes a clear statement that is because of Melissa Barrera.
I can't even imagine what that script's going to look like without your two leads in it.
Not a good movie.
Well, how do you write the main characters out and make it make sense? I'm not even talking about like why it happened. Just like if I was going to watch Scream 7, like what would the story be that your two leads are not in the movie? Like, man, they got screamed off screen. Like they got murdered off screen. Like, oh, they're busy doing their own thing, and now we're focusing just on Chad. And I'm like, I love Chad, but like, he's not the star of the movie. It's the fact that they're even trying this at all instead of just scrapping it is incredibly shitty. First of all, but like,
I agree.
Good luck trying to fix this mess, y'all.
The moment they knew that they also didn't have Jenna Ortega, it's like just don't.
Yeah.
And like, and I said this. I know Brandon knows this because I saw him like it, but it very much is like their only Hail Mary on this is if you get Neve Campbell and Matthew Lillard back, and then you're like, cool, that guarantees us the box office, like bang, gonna get those diehard Scream fans back in. And it's like, honestly, no. Like,
you know what Scream fans
that's
are?
all you're doing.
They're
like, no.
young and progressive.
Yeah,
and this move is not that.
Yeah.
I was already really hesitant about this one because I like Christopher Landon. I think he's a good director. I like Freaky and Happy Death Day too a lot. So like I was always like, I don't know, with Radio Silence not coming back to do this third one, complete the kind of like what I really felt like was a trilogy. Like it really felt like Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega's character were on an arc that was going to finish in a third film. Not that you can't finish it here. Not that 6 is not a good ending for it. Because obviously it has to be. But like I felt like there was more to bring them into a 7th film, and it already felt weird to me not to have the creative team working on that 7th film.
Absolutely.
So like I was like, all right, I like Christopher Landon. What can they pull off? And then we lost Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega. And it's like I don't care what you do. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing this movie. This is ridiculously stupid, and I don't care about it anymore.
As an extraordinarily huge Scream fan, I'm really sad.
Yeah,
I'm really sad that there's a very real possibility that there's going to be a new Scream film that I'm not going to see. That bums me out. like nobody's business. I would rather that they just stopped and scrapped all of this, or do your apologies and get Melissa Barrera back. But like, it was such a it's so shitty. So she's fired over what they're citing as controversial comments, and then when they got specific, they said anti-Semitic, and because of her posting support for Palestinians and saying that she doesn't want people killed in a genocide. And I'm not using specific language, but I will say, like, nothing in the stuff that she was sharing was anti-Semitic, and in fact was very often coming from the perspective of Jews.
She was also
keeping Jewish voices involved in the things that she was sharing.
Absolutely.
And like being part of the conversation. So like, she was very responsible about it. And there's been really slimy, like, people, whether they're inside the production company or not, who knows, but like trying to side eye, like, well, what we're really talking about are remarks that she made in person, not things that she was posting online. And it's like, get out of here. Like, that's not real. Because they can't substantiate any of it. And frankly, I hope she sues them over this. This also comes in at the same time as, like, you know, we've got Susan Sarandon also let go from her talent agency over the same stuff. And other places where people are losing their jobs.
Like Tom Cruise's agent, like he batted for her, and like Tom Cruise is the biggest movie star in the world.
She was like the head of an agency.
Yeah.
She still lost that position, but she's still on as an agent at the agency because Tom Cruise, but she got demoted.
It's just crazy that Tom Cruise has a lot of interesting politics himself, but he's still a good enough guy to bat for someone who doesn't deserve to be fired. And that was just really nice.
Just because Tom Cruise is crazy doesn't mean he's not at least halfway decent.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the thing that really bothers me about this is that it is if you guys remember history, the Red Scare, McCarthyism, being fired or being removed from anything for just having an opinion on something that I think is a pretty easy thing to look at.
This is happening to a lot of non-celebrities.
Absolutely. Yeah. Lots of people are losing their jobs. Like, whether you're an actor or just someone at Starbucks saying that, like, hey, I don't like people getting murdered for no reason. Like, I think it's a pretty easy stance to be anti-genocide personally. And the fact that we have people like Noah Schnapp from Stranger Things, who is literally posting videos about how saying Zionism is sexy, and he's getting off scot-free. Skylar Gizmondo is very much pro-Israel, liking every possible thing you can about being pro-Israel. And again, this is not me saying Israel, the country, all of them, they're doing a bad thing. It is the government of Israel. There are plenty of great people in Israel, right? It's really gross.
It's the same thing as, like, we condemn Hamas, but we don't condemn all the Palestinian people.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just, it's a really, more than anything, it's a really scary precedent of just like how we're like shifting back into conservatism in a really, really awful way. And like arts, people are like the people who work in art are very passionate and very expressive. And the fact that you are silencing half of them because you don't agree with them is like, yo, man, there's a lot of shitty conservatives who still get plenty of movies, and like, I'll watch their movies, I just won't agree with their opinion. This is like actively like ruining people's lives because they're anti-genocide. And it's like, it really sucks. And what really bothers me, and this is not a thing about the podcast, but it really bothers me that people only started caring when it affected their big movie franchises. Like, oh no, what's going to happen to Scream? Like, hey, maybe just open your eyes to the world a little bit. Mm-hmm. And like, if anything, this allowed people to get their eyes on what is really happening in the world because someone they like got fired from a movie they like. And they're like, oh, why did she get fired? Oh, I see. Like, if this was an educational experience in any way, then that's great. But like, man, like, there are so many awful things in the world, and like, they're now just paying attention because, oh, Scream 7 got halted. I'm like, I get it. It's just, it sucks that this is kind of where we're at with people in politics. And like, to be fair, and like, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole. I do want to stay focused on like some of the Scream stuff, but like, it's very much the timing of this is with our country having only in the past couple of years slowly started to look at beyond the propaganda that we are fed, whether it's subconscious or direct. Yeah. Of Israel Palestine's too complicated to talk about or think about, and so we've been fed that our entire lives. Yeah. And it's really complex. Like, it's just like, you can't look over there, you can't really think about it, kind of thing. And that's really crumbled and fallen apart over the past couple of years.
but especially like people who have had that even longer, you know, going back like to they're in their 60s now or whatever.
Yeah,
like I get it. Like our government has fooled us into thinking that it was too complicated to talk about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that there were no right answers about what was going on over there or any ways to understand it.
Yeah.
And like it's so goofy when I look back on it that that's the stance we had, but it is the stance we had.
And what I love about being in the 21st century is we have social media and we have people actively showing what is really happening. So, you know, you can get fed lies and like we recognize the lies. And like, yeah, our government, we talk about it all the time, like without even like talking about this specific topic, like our government is incredibly shitty. And it's just like, it's nice that like the younger generations are really getting more involved and more open to like, hey man, we don't have to live with this. We can fight against this. But let's talk about Scream 7 because like
I think but in terms of Melissa Barrera being fired, I think it's outrageous. I do think she should ultimately get to sue them over this because like they are asserting claims of anti-Semitism that's like it's not there. It's not present in the language of anything that she. All
of her posts were so beautiful and eloquent. And again, looking at both sides of the equation and how these are both involving real people. And it's like, I do not see how what she is saying is anti-Semitism when people are actually saying, yo, Zionism, right on, baby. It's sexy. I love it. Here's a sticker. And I'm like, it's just like, it's I find it just disgusting.
Yeah.
There's a horrible misconception that if you're anti-Israel, you're anti-Jewish, which is something that I've been dealing with my entire life because a whole side of my family is Jewish.
Right.
So the whole thing of like, if you want to say anything bad against Israel, then you're anti the Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been fed into my head forever and ever and ever. And there has become a spinelessness in that when you say that she is being anti-Semitic, so we are going to fire her because we're not conservative. I mean, they are, but that's not why they're doing it. They're doing it because they're spineless. They don't want to make the distinction because to them, there shouldn't be, or there isn't, or they've been told there isn't.
Right.
So they're saying to by doing this, if you say anything against Israel, which is again something that not even my Jewish family, not even the Jewish people in my life, but if you look at the way our government talks about Israel, the way our government will always back Israel no matter what, which is ridiculous. It's always because it's Jewish, because we're helping the Jewish people because they were persecuted during the Holocaust, because so many of them died during the Holocaust. We gifted them Israel. So that's why Israel equals Jewish. With Melissa Barrera, if she's speaking out against Israel, she's not speaking out against Judaism. But you have Spyglass Entertainment thinking there's no distinction because they're spineless, because they don't want to get into the discussion. They don't want to say to the people, hey, there's a discussion to be had here that one does not equal the other. And they don't want to do that. They don't care. They want a clean slate. They want to poo-poo. Go away.
And
we don't want to deal with this.
They could have honestly said like, they made a big statement and like, hey, like what we don't represent, like, you know, what we think and what she think aren't the same. And then like they could have forced her to make a statement or something. But like, you're right. Like it is completely spineless to just like, oh, we're just going to wash our hands of the situation and not even look at it. Like not even make it complicated. It's like, no, she's just fired because she said something. And I'm like,
and I think it's really blown up in their faces. Like Melissa Barrera, they felt, I do feel like, because Jenna Ortega's also been posting, as people have said, like things in support of Palestine. Like this is not also, Melissa Barrera was maybe more consistent and active about it, like in the sense of just like maybe once a day. But Jenna Ortega's been doing it too. And like Jenna Ortega wasn't fired, and Jenna Ortega wasn't fired because she's a moneymaker name, and Melissa Barrera isn't.
100%.
She's a great talent. She's just not an A-lister name where you hear it that makes you want to watch something.
Yeah,
she's not there yet. I think she will be one day, but she's not there yet.
She gained 500,000 followers on Instagram in a day.
She might be now.
If anything, this skyrocket her now, dude. Like she's gonna be so much bigger than ever now.
You're right.
Because of this.
You're right. She was also recently, like just before this, she was fired and replaced off of a project with a white lady for another thing too. Though that doesn't necessarily that seems less that to have anything to do with this. To just be like shitty. But Melissa Barrera, they felt like they could kind of get away with it, I think. But the fact that they lost Jenna Ortega in the same move, which it baffles me that they thought they wouldn't. They're sunk. Like there's no Scream 7. There's no point in making Scream 7. And I know they're like wanting to go back to the well with Nev Campbell, but we've already talked to death about even as we were leading up to Scream 5 that it's like you can't kill Sydney. Like there's no story to tell there. It was as much as like it's shitty that they wouldn't offer Nev Campbell the money she deserves to come back. I'm glad that ultimately she didn't come back because I don't believe that Sydney should be back in any movies without Wes Craven anyway, especially not if you're going to kill her. And you'd have to, or there's no point in bringing her back in the story. So just don't do it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. But that's the only path they can see now to financial success with this because they've shot themselves in the foot so spectacularly.
I need to talk about Mel Gibson for a minute.
Oh, sure.
Yes. Yeah. I love to hear this, Brandon.
Mel Gibson is a known anti-Semite. Has been for many years, openly, still to this day, will say really shitty things about Jewish people.
Yeah.
And yet, he just headlined a John Wick TV series.
Yep.
There's 3 nights, 3 hour-and-a-half long nights, where he was a main character on a John Wick TV series.
Yeah.
Now, admittedly, if he was still doing like movies like that weird Santa Claus movie he did a couple years back or stuff like that, even like post The Beaver and then like just doing like direct to DVD movies and blah blah blah, don't care. You're getting your money how you get it. Hell, if you were doing Daily Wire shit, I wouldn't care. But John Wick is a really big popular franchise, and he was a main character in it. Did any of us see this show?
No.
Right. So like, how is it possible? And again, we all know the answer is sexism. How is it possible that he is still in the limelight, still headlining these things, and you're using the excuse of being anti-Semitic with this person who, again, was being critical of a government, which is not the same thing. So like, it's ridiculous to see this happen like this, and maddening and frustrating and like
disappointing.
Thank you. Like, it's just completely ridiculous to see this. And like, I'm not going to watch that John Wick TV series. And I love John Wick. I would have loved a show about the Continental. Are you kidding me? That sounds great.
Absolutely.
I would watch an anime or the High Table movie or show, whatever they're going to do. I'll watch it all. I'm not going to watch the Continental. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And it's like, I feel like in Hollywood, like after this explosion happened and so many people are very vocal about how dumb this is and how much they don't support it. Like, I want to hope that'll scare some people from making stupid, rash decisions like this. But I don't believe in Hollywood enough to think that. So like there'll be more stuff behind the scenes that we'll probably never know about. And like, they won't be as vocal as like, yo, we're going to fire our lead person out open. So like, I don't know how nothing will get rectified from this. Like, do you guys think there is a world where they hire her back, like in a James Gunn situation? Or do you think I think the nail is done for them? I think Scream 7 is a bust.
I wonder.
You have to so blatantly admit it's. I really don't see how.
Yeah.
Because you not only have to admit you're wrong to have fired her.
Yeah.
You essentially have to say that even if you don't condone what she's saying and like side with her about Palestine, you have to say that it's okay that she does. That's the thing, is like they tangled themselves up in a web now where they should just do that. I just don't think they will.
I don't think so.
But would she want to? Like, would she be the bigger person and be like, I'm not coming back? Absolutely not.
I think if that was the path, right, where Spyglass had to say like, we were wrong, this was a wrong action to take, XYZ, and by doing so saying like it's okay for her to post about Free Palestine, and like if that were the statement the studio made, I think there's a path. I think there is a path where Melissa Barrera would be like, that's a cosmic shift to make them say that to want you back. But
did you guys see Christopher Landon's tweet about this? The only thing he said was just like, I didn't do this. This wasn't me. Please stop yelling at me or something like that.
And then he deleted it because people were like,
dude, this was awful.
Yeah, like I understand you can't say a lot about this because like for like, you know, studio reasons.
I think it would have been a perfectly fine post if he didn't include the stop yelling part.
Yes.
I think
I'm probably paraphrasing. I don't remember his exact wording, but I do know that was the idea of it.
He did a heartbreak emoji. He said,
everything
sucks.
Stop yelling.
This wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very short.
Yeah. If he'd posted heartbroken emoji, honestly, even by itself, I would have been like, that's enough for a director in their position like that they probably can't say very much.
Yeah.
And just said everything sucks, fine. If he said like this wasn't up to me, I think that's all okay. It's the stop yelling that it's like even though he didn't say stop yelling at me, he just said stop yelling. It made it like stop being upset about this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, shut the fuck up. We can be upset about this. It shouldn't have happened.
You kind of gotta. I kind of felt for him a little bit though. Like he loses his 2 leads on a movie that he's coming in after 2 popular entries, and he's now being and he was being blamed for it. I mean, everyone blames the director for these things because they're the face of the movie. And so like he handled it very badly, obviously, but like I do kind of feel for him a little bit because like. Yeah. It would suck to be in the situation, not have any power, and you just lost your 2 leads.
Yeah, I honestly, I really do think it's the stop yelling that everybody responded to poorly. That they were like, don't say that. Especially because he didn't specify at me. He just said stop yelling.
Sure.
And it's like, no, everyone's going to be vocal about this. Everyone should be vocal about this. You should not be, as the director, if you disagree with this decision, telling people to not be vocal about being upset about this. So like it was just it was a poor choice. It was just a poor choice. And I'm not condemning him.
Yeah.
But it was a bad scene. He shouldn't have said it.
And I just don't see a world where Neve Campbell would say yes after also this happened and after the negotiations of last time, unless they give her literally like $50 million.
Yeah,
like they combined salaries of both the 2 leads. I don't see her coming back either.
And to my knowledge, Matthew Lillard's fairly progressive too, and I don't think that he'd come back for this either at this point. So like if that was the idea, like that idea is sunk.
Matthew Lillard, it was really funny to see people discover. I think he has a trans daughter. And people like discover that because like he had posted something which was being sarcastic of anti-trans rhetoric, and people were like, "Oh my god, it's Matthew Lillard," and everyone was like, "No, he's got a trans daughter," and blah blah blah. And so like kind of discovering that like people kind of like almost turning on Matthew Lillard and being like, "Oh wait, okay, I get it now. Okay, I see."
It was also really funny to see him during the strikes being like, y'all, I really want to talk about this movie.
Yeah.
I really want to talk about Five Nights, but I can't. And he just keep posting videos. I'm just walking around his living room going crazy. And I'm like, oh man, he just wants to talk about his movie.
Yeah. I don't see it. I don't see it. The only like positive version I see of this happening is like they try to do a rewrite of the script and it's just shit. And they can it, and they wait a couple months, and they try to see if they can get the 2 leads back when it's possible. Like I just don't. Now that this has happened, I don't see any world where Scream 7 comes out in a good way at all. Like if you can't get Neve back for the final movie, like scrap it. Just scrap it, man.
Now, admittedly, I know nothing about the conflict with Israel and Palestine. I'll be frank about it. I'm completely ignorant to world events mostly on purpose, mostly on accident. Kind of 50-50 on either side. But when it comes to this, like I don't get it. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't get it. I know I don't. Genocide is bad. I'm aware enough to know that about that. But like, there's a lot that I just don't understand. But I also know that what Melissa Barrera said is not wrong. She's not. Yeah. She didn't say anything cruel or mean, evil, controversial. She was being open from the heart, saying something that people should probably agree with.
Yeah. And like I love after it happened, like it took her like a day, but she responded and she's like, I will not be silenced. And like that's really powerful. That is incredibly powerful because she could have, her agent probably told her like, yo, you got to go media blackout, to hush this up. And like, no, that's not who I am. Like I'm gonna continue to, I'm gonna be louder if anything. And I think that's fantastic because like, man, when bad shit happens in the world, like it's, I 100% understand where you're coming from, Brandon. Like sometimes like we can't ignore such things like this because if we ignore them, then we just allow them to persist forever. And like we need big Hollywood celebrities because that's where a lot of people pay attention to is the big Hollywood people. So like her being this vocal is like really great, not just for us, but for like the younger generation to show like, hey, we can be loud and be supportive. And again, like, yo, man, if Tom Cruise is on their side, like, come on, guys, like,
and this is the just like the Christopher Landon thing that Stop Yelling. It hits so sour with people because that's essentially like the tact our government has taken about this is that they just want everybody to stop talking about it and ignore it, and move on. And people are refusing to ignore it, and that's what they want. They want us to not engage and not talk about it and not get up in arms about it, and that's not what's happening. And it's really so just it's awful what's happening, but it's also just so terrible to watch, not just our government, but then like these high seats of power in arts and other things say, if you speak about this, we're going to do everything in our power to take away your platform and silence you.
Yeah. It took us 100 years to realize that art and capitalism don't mix.
Yeah. We were doing pretty good there for a while, but it happens.
Okay.
That was a great conversation. Thank you for being part of it, Brandon.
Yeah. Jamie Foxx might be a sex offender. All right. So that's how we're going to end that.
That's why we put it at the end.
Yeah. All the bad stuff goes at the end. I mean, look, only thing about the Jamie Foxx thing that I did save it because I did want to mention it at the end is that like a lawsuit has been filed against Jamie Foxx for alleged sexual assault. That sucks. I love Jamie Foxx. That's going to be a real. That's going to suck.
I'm going to like, yo, man, like it's getting, for me, in a way, it's getting easier and easier to separate the art from the artist because at this point, like half of
everyone
the celebrities
sucks.
have done some terrible shit. Everybody sucks no matter what. Yeah. Everyone's got baggage. Everyone's got things that they've done. So I'm just like, man, I'm just going to go in the movies and pretend these aren't real people anymore because like I can't get attached to celebrities no matter, like I've been burned so many times, like putting my love and faith into people who I think are great people and they do really shitty things. Like it's hard.
Again, it's what I always say. It's a personal choice. Like, is the person so like harmful that you have to take a stand, like J.K. Rowling, or in my case, Mel Gibson? Like, they are actively harming people. Like are like on a constant like if J.K. Rowling had said, "Hey, I hate trans people," and then shut the F up for like 3 years, I'd probably I might have checked out the Harry Potter video game. I might have. But like she constantly every day has been saying some bullshit, and I'm like, I can't. Your brand is now this. This is the only thing that we associate.
You won't let me like you,
right? Yeah. So, and not to like say like sexual assault can be like washed away or anything like that, but like it depends. Like, was this a long time thing? Is he atoning for it? Is he going to like make a statement? What's the end result here? But yeah, believe women. What's the thing? What's the Palestine thing? What do people say about
from the river to the sea?
That sure.
Well, I learned recently this isn't as bad, but like in like 1992, John Hamm in college set a dude's pants on fire as like a hazing ritual, and people are like, "We're canceling John Hamm." I'm like, bro, that was like before I was born. Like he was 18 years old. Like I'm going to forgive him for a shady thing he did 30 years ago. He has clearly not done anything like that since.
Right.
So I'm like,
in just in response to what you were saying, it's a free Palestine or ceasefire now, or pretty much go-tos.
Okay,
Everybody's pretty on board with like just do a goddamn ceasefire.
We're a
we won't
pretty
get into
progressive
politics or
podcast.
anything, but I also like I briefly mentioned it, but like the Susan Sarandon thing also like
That's so baffling.
that bums me the hell out.
Yeah.
I
Susan
just-
Sarandon, real quickly, just to give a little bit of context on that one from my Jewish side of things, like there's a large section of the Jewish community that believes Susan Sarandon is anti-Semitic and has been for many, many years.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not. I have not seen any proof of it, but like there's a lot of Jewish people who were like celebrating this because of her history with anti-Semitism. So like I don't know.
Interesting. I don't know anything about that. All I know is that it was the same context. What she was posting was what she was saying was nothing that was directly anti-Semitic. It was just criticism of Israel and wanting safety of the civilians in Palestine.
Right.
And I don't think that's something you should get punished for.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that like it's entirely possible that she has been openly critical of Israel, and that again, as we talked about, has been being it's become 1-to-1. It's like, no, that's not the case. You can be critical of the government. Yeah.
Absolutely. Susan Sarandon strikes me as a person who has long paid attention to actually what was going on in Israel and Palestine and made a decision about what she thought about that much earlier than most Americans.
Yeah.
Because she tends to be a pretty world aware person. It's really a bummer. I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I do think like decisions like this, there's a whole, and I do think this is anti-Semitic and it's gross. But like, you know, when we were growing up, there was a whole like concept of Jews control everything and Jews control the way that things work in Hollywood and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't want them to feed that idea again. And foster anti-Semitism. I also don't want that. And I think that like when you are silencing people in this kind of way, where it's something that's so not about what you're saying it's about. I think it fosters a dislike that can lead back to that. And I don't want that either. It's just so shitty. Scream 6 was an excellent finale for the Scream franchise. I'm so sad that Scream is over.
What's the opening kill? He's like, who gives a shit about movies? And I'm just like, man, that's a good movie. Oh yeah.
Scream 6 is a good movie and it's a good ending to the franchise. Happy to have it.
The core 4 survived and they lived happily ever after, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
6 good movies.
Yeah. The worst one is like not bad. Like that's a pretty good franchise. Thank you, Mark.
All right, so that'll do it. Let's get out of here. Unless there's anything else you guys want to bring up.
No, I'm just looking at my Jimmy Olsen behind me, and I'm like, man, we're gonna get to see Superman and Jimmy hanging out. Him being like, oh shucks, Superman. He's like, golly, I love corn, and I'm like, I'm just so excited. I'm so excited.
Superman's catchphrase, golly, corn. I love corn.
Yeah, Superman's famous phrase. You know,
so what he says whenever he lands in the same thing. Golly, I love corn.
Listen, give him a Kansas accent. Like no Superman adaptation has ever given him like an actual accent.
That's a really good point.
No, and I'm hey man, Southern people have accents, even though Kansas is not Southern.
You gotta have. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like not Southern drawl.
No
bullshit,
ma'am.
Actually get an actively correct Kansas accent.
I just think that'd be. I've seen that being floated around. I'm like, I don't think it's gonna happen, but I think it'd be cute.
Okay, so that'll do it, guys. Hey, check out some of the other things. We'll be back probably next week. We'll see. Again, it depends if we have enough to talk about. I'm happy that we kept this at around 2 hours. Grateful for it. Hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. It was Thanksgiving week. I hope everyone watching this had a good Thanksgiving. I famously hate holidays, but that does not mean I want everyone to suffer during them. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. And happy future birthday to Sparks, whose birthday is coming up this week.
Coming up.
So stay tuned for a bunch of fun stuff next week, most likely, and a bunch of other things that are coming out and during the pipeline. Of course, there's a lot of like Victor's Watch stuff, and there's a lot of like I don't have the list in front of me this week, unfortunately. But check out our website at fakenerpodcast.com for all the links you can find to every single one of our shows. All the subscriber links, all the watch links, they're all there. You can check them out right now. You can also check out our TeePublic and our Patreon if you'd like to support us financially, which are also linked below as well as on our website. which is also linked below. So fakenerdpodcast.com once again. Thank you to everyone who listens, and thank you to everyone who watches the live show, and thank you to everyone who watches the rewind. We greatly appreciate it. And we hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoy doing it. Thank you to Jeremy Vellucci for the music you heard here today and all the music you hear for all of our shows. Thank you to... you can also check him out at Jeremy_Wreck of Time. Jeremy Vellucci _Wreck of Time, which is his band, The Wreck of Time. You could also check out his podcast, Suburban Proctologist, at Facebook and Instagram and iTunes. I don't have once again, I think it's at SubProc Podcast on Instagram and Suburban Proctologist Official on Facebook.
Hell yeah.
Thank you once again to Mike Matola. Mike Matola is a wonderful collaborator of ours, did a couple of our logos, collaborated with us on a few things. You can check him out at Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at Mike Matola. And yeah, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Fake Nerd Podcasts, fakenerdguys@gmail.com. If you'd like to get in touch with us personally, I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter, or you can also find me writing for atomickingdom.com. Once again, our co-host Ben Magnet is Ben Magnet27 on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, blah, 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 blah. Sparks, can we find you?
You can find me loving Scream 1 through 6. At Sparks Woody on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Woody.
And Ryan?
You can find me talking about how much Superman loves corn all over the internet at DJ Tony Snark.
All right,
That
guys.
boy's
Subscribe.
ready to get shooked.
Subscribe to us on your podcatcher of choice. Rate and review wherever you get us. Like this video. Subscribe to this channel. Until next time we see us, guys, stay fake nerds.